All right, welcome back to Social Distillation, the submarine still of the internet, where we attempt to drop the beat and pour white lightning straight onto your brain. What are we talking about today, Samuel?
Oh, hopefully this is a fun one. We're going to go into critical race theory, CRT, specifically for an author, Ta-Nehisi Coates. Then we're going to continue our talk of bros versus hoes, but we're taking the bro side again, and we're blaming the bros this time. So if that interests you, stick around. But also, education on CRT is important because it is a very deceptive system.
Hmm.
So we're going to go into that as well.
Yeah, and this originally came up because I was watching something, and out of nowhere, Ta-Nehisi Coates showed up, and I'm like, "Wait, why are you still around?" And the reason I wanted to talk about this is because we've brought up the last couple of times of, hey, this is why we don't really talk about current news politics anymore,
Hmm.
because you you can think this nonsense is going away, and I see this a lot on the right. I don't know about the more like left of center people who are just the, Rob Schneider on trigonometry. I'm a '90s liberal, which makes me a fascist now, right? So I don't know from that perspective what people like him are seeing and thinking. But on the right, there was this kind of disturbing "we've won" mentality when Trump got elected, got reelected or elected again, I guess technically, of, oh, we've won, woke is dead. No, woke is not dead. It's not front page necessarily
Yep.
anymore. It's not being pushed as hard, but it's not gone because it is a
And we
cultural
even have the woke
phenomenon.
right now with Fuentes and who he's the biggest name that I can think of,
Well,
but
Tucker's getting there too,
Tucker, oh yeah, Tucker is getting there
or
too.
not getting there. He's been there.
He's
I think
been
he's
there,
he's
yeah.
fully bought in,
Yeah.
among some others. But and as a reminder, just give us a quick refresher on what CRT is, because it's way older than people think.
Okay, critical race theory is this is where the word woke came from. They were actually proud of that before it became a pejorative. Okay. So the where it came from was uh, the idea that there is underlying racism or any ism, because they put it to ageism and ableism and all of that. There is an underlying ism to everything that the structures of society are made to keep bolstering up the previous whatever it is, like straight white males. You know, that's the big one with critical race theory. Straight white males
Mm.
are the structure of society, and they created society to keep it in that position. And so with critical race theory, that is, you're awake to those structures and you can see it in everything. So if I walk into okay, so if I'm a store owner and a black person and a white person walk in, I would immediately help the white person versus the black person, unless I was helping the black person first just to get him out of there. So it's a Kafka trap, is what it is.
Yeah.
It's a theory that the underlying systems will support the oppressor instead of the oppressed. And the problem is we do have a little bit of elitism in this country where the millionaires and billionaires can influence everything over the poor, and we're having a ever shrinking middle class. So they
Hmm.
would be right if they did it with a class system right now, but the fact that they do it with a race system or a male female system or a gay lesbian system or any of those things is the where they kind of go off the rails, because basically, if you look at the world that way, you can make anything racist.
Hmm.
As I just gave the example, if I help the white person first, I'm racist. But if I help the black person first, I'm racist. These are all Kafka traps. But that's kind of a quick rundown of critical race theory. But uh, are we even equal is a good, it's an easy read, uh, but don't let it influence you too much. That's Robin DiAngelo and
Hmm.
Robert Sensoy, I
But
think is his
but the
name.
roots of all this go back to like the '50s, right? Is when this
Oh,
when
this
critical
this
theory
started in
first
the
started going
20s.
in the 20s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this was Frankfurt School. This is how
Okay.
they push their agenda. They just change it to whatever the current.
Yes, because
Yeah.
the Frankfurt School and some others of the Marxists back in the early 20th century realized that the class struggle, because you don't have the aristocratic nature here in the United States like you did in Europe, the language of class struggle doesn't resonate as much.
Hmm.
Whereas the uh, racial and gender oppression does register because of our foundational documents of equality of man conflicting with how we're actually living our lives.
Yeah,
And
and it goes back to even Herbert Marcuse, I think it was the 40s when he talked about sexuality, right? So they kind of just adjust it to whatever the conflict
mhm,
of the time was. And where it really became a problem in the States was actually when, remember, the Tea Party and the Occupy Wall Street movement were
mhm,
big. They were big at the same time, and they were populist movements. Both of them were populist movements, one on the right, one on the left. And the critical race theorists came in and they started dividing up those movements by introducing race theory and stuff like that into it. So Occupy Wall Street fell victim. Tea Party kind of just did its thing for a while because it was right wingers. They weren't as susceptible to this kind of thing. But the
no,
tea
instead they were co-opted by grifters.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. That was a different problem. But the critical race theorists came in and started shaking hands and said, you know what? We need to separate the black people from the white people here because y'all have different values because of what ethnicity you are and all this stuff. And they broke up the Occupy Wall Street. Of course, it was all set up by the big bankers because that was what the whole point was behind the Tea Party and the Occupy Wall Street was to the bailouts, the bank
Yep.
bailouts, and so they actually successfully came in and did that, and it was something that was developed in academia because as what does Gad Sad say? Something an idea so stupid only academics could come up with it. Yeah.
Mhm. So this came up because I was looking for something to watch as I was unwinding in bed a week or so ago. And there are a bunch of new documentaries on Netflix, which has gotten worse and worse and worse lately. And I'm really on the verge of canceling it if my wife would let me. But there's annoyingly, it's the only place to get a lot of foreign shows in the US. They have a lot of licenses for, Korean, Indian, and Chinese and Japanese stuff. And so it's the only way to watch that here. And which is why it's so stark when something like, Squid Game comes along and blows up it's because Netflix didn't have anything to do with that.
Hmm.
They did for the sequel, which is why it wasn't as good.
I
Um,
got an episode in and I was like, nah,
exactly.
but the first season was fantastic.
So they didn't have any input in the production of that show or shows like that Physical 100 that kind of blew up. Uh, they're just licensing the distribution.
Hmm.
You see in things that they have a hand in the production where they're putting up the money and they're the producers. And a lot of this is because this is what's so sleazy. The Obamas and a bunch of people from their administration are on the board of Netflix.
Mm.
And the Obamas, with no uh, prior history or experience in this, created a production company after they left the White House.
Yeah,
And
have you
so
seen their
they
movie?
no.
It The production value is pretty good. I like the actors in it, uh, but it's pretty eerie. Like this is stuff that could happen and could be done by the elites of this country.
Yeah, I,
And
I I have heard people talking about it, so I know what it's about, and it is kind of weird, creepy programming.
Yeah, you're almost like, are you telling us something? Or, it's the what we call the limited hangout,
Mm-hmm.
where
It's or well, in politics they call it a trial balloon, where you'll leak something to
hmm
see what the reaction is, and then you still have plausible deniability. If the reaction is bad, you can come and say, no, 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 that was someone who didn't know what they were talking about. We don't know who gave you that information, but we're not doing that. We're not doing that.
Yeah.
But if the reaction's good, they're like, well, we're considering it.
Yeah, and that's one of the sad things is because I mean, even going back to the Bushes, we've had very few good choices
Yep, yep, yep.
going forward, and it
So
looks like we don't have very many good choices going forward.
speaking of good
Yeah,
choices,
yeah.
there's this series of documentaries on mostly presidents, but significant American figures in history. And I saw Grant, and I thought I'll give this a chance, and hopefully it's good because sometimes you still get good documentary content on Netflix. Again, usually if they're not involved
I,
and they're
I
just
still have
distributing.
one of my favorite quotes is Ulysses S. Grant. I was only good at two things, war and marriage, and that tells you
Exactly.
something. Yeah.
Yep, yep, yep. So he is, I feel, one of the more misunderstood and one of the more underrated presidents in American history. I don't think he's as good as some of the revisionists on the right are making him out to be as one of the best presidents. He wasn't one of the best presidents, but I would say
No,
he was
in that
over
the
the
interview
midline.
he made that quote was about why were you so bad as a president? He's like, well,
Yeah,
I'm only good at two things.
he did. There were a lot of good accomplishments under his administration, and while he had a lot of bad people around him, he did a decent job of fixing their messes when he found out about them.
Mhm.
So I was going to give this a shot, and within 5 minutes I had to turn it off because they had some academics on. They had some, prior uh, army officers talking about him from a military perspective, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, here's Ta-Nehisi Coates talking about the state of America in the early to mid 1800s, spewing literal lies that are so easily debunked.
Mhm.
What the main one being that America was built on slavery.
The
Bullcrap.
1619 project, right?
Exactly. He's
That was
spewing the 1619
yeah.
Project talking points
Who was
that
that?
are
Who
so
was
easily
1619?
debunked. And I've ranted this before, but if you think America's industrial might, America's wealth was built on slavery, then why the hell was the South so poor for so long? Because people who talk about the wealth of the South, the South was basically a third world country. Okay,
hmm
the South is, and I've have um, friends that live in California get mad when I point this out. California is a third world country. That's stupid. California is so rich. Then there are very rich people in South America.
hmm
Hugo Chavez was incredibly rich. He turned Venezuela into a third world country because he confiscated all the wealth. Okay, you have incredibly rich people at the very top of third world countries, and then there's no upper class, there's no middle class, there's a whole bunch of poor people. That was the South before the war and for a long time after the war. What was the North? The North was very quickly becoming an industrial rival to England and Germany and France. Okay, because they didn't have slavery. Okay, the wealth of America was the northern industrial base. Okay, and in fact, that goes all the way up to the Civil War. That goes all the way up to World War II, because most of where the arsenal of democracy was made was in the Midwest, and then the West Coast and New England had a bunch of the shipbuilding, but a bunch of the heavy manufacturing was the Midwest.
hmm
And then it was only as the needs of the industrial the needs of the wartime production were such that new factories were created in the South to take advantage of workers down there. That's when industrialization began in the South. It really wasn't until World War II.
hmm
So it is just those basic facts let you point at someone like Ta-Nehisi Coates and say, you're spewing nonsense. Easily, this is a documentary, and you are spewing nonsense. You are spewing easily debunked lies.
Now I need to look now because I haven't listened to him in a while. But you said people on the right. I'll give you someone on the left that I wouldn't say despises, but is critical of Ta-Nehisi Coates is John McWhorter.
Hmm.
Yeah, he he's a lefty. He's a academic, Columbia University, and he calls people like Ta-Nehisi Coates the people with three names. Ta and he said that all the people that are spewing stupid stuff have three names for some reason, and but he is very. I actually saw an interview between him and Ta-Nehisi Coates, and you saw an empty suit on one side.
Yeah.
You saw a very intelligent man on one side, and you saw an empty suit on another. And then for those that don't know who Ta-Nehisi Coates is, he's famous. Between the World is Me and Me is his most famous book, but he's also been in front of Congress and all of these things with the CRT message
Hmm.
and trying to advocate for that. I think it was actually shortly after the Trayvon Martin thing that he was first in front of Congress. And for some reason, because he wrote some famous books and he wrote for the Atlantic, he always gets pulled into these things. Kind of like Ibram X. Kendi, who's the definition of an empty suit, along
Hmm.
with Candace Owens, if you want
Right.
to criticize the right too. But they are they're very famous for this ideology, but they actually have very little substance behind what because they spew things, and then you actually look into what they're saying, and I, I'm not as familiar with Coates's writing as I am with Kendi, so I'm going to bring Kendi into this. When I read How to Be an Anti-Racist from Ibram X. Kendi, he has like 300 sources because that's what you do as an academic writer, right? And I would just randomly look up the sources as I was going through there. I would just, every 10th one or every 12th one, I would look it up. And he was making a point about racism in real estate in Missouri. His source was an article from 1930 from a local newspaper. But he's talking about current racism in Missouri. And I'm like, okay, you put a source in there so everybody thinks you're telling the truth. But is it the same?
Yeah, because you're not making a historical point, you're making a current
You're
point,
making a current
and you're
point.
using an
It-
almost 100-year-old source.
yeah, and that's what these academics do is they make it look smart by putting these sources in there. But
Was
then
it
you actually
Columbia where he had his social science lab, anti-racist lab, or whatever it was that was recently shut
no,
down? It was a big name university.
it was a big name university. I'll have to look it up, but
Yeah,
I think it was somewhere near Washington, D.C.
but you
Yeah.
see where, again, empty suit is it, even amongst other academics, his academic credentials don't stand up.
Hmm.
And
Well, I had this argument in my social psych class because there was a paper we read, and one of the parts of it was they actually said all the other literature says differently, but this is what we think. And then they said what they think, and I'm like, now somebody can source this paper and say what you thought, and so it can. What does Brett Weinstein say? Idea laundering.
yeah,
Idea laundering. It's like laundering money. It's fake money because it was just a thought in a paper, but someone can source it for their own thought and
because it was in a
an academic
peer-reviewed
paper. Yeah.
academic paper or journal or whatever. Yep. And the reason this matters, I'm going to try not to get too emotional about this, but I mean, this happened in my backyard of uh the track meet stabbing here
Oh
in
fuck
Frisco,
yeah.
Texas.
Okay,
And
I knew this was going to come up. Everybody has
yeah,
asked me about this today.
I didn't again, originally this was because I saw Ta-Nehisi Coates on this Grant documentary, and I rolled my eyes and got annoyed and laughed and said, "Okay, we need to talk about this more on," because again, the point of this is if you don't fix the culture, you don't fix this stuff. It's not, it hasn't gone away and it's not going away unless you fix this.
Hmm.
And this is why it matters because my point about illogical versus rational in the mind of someone like Carmelo Anthony, what he did was wholly rational because he had been so inculcated in this, to use the left's favorite word, toxic ideology, such that he would purposely go looking. So I can finally give my thoughts on it because we talked about it over a year ago when this happened, and I said I don't think I probably shouldn't say too much publicly about what I think about it because there's a slim chance, but there's a chance I could end up on the jury.
Mm.
Now that it's over, I can say that what the witnesses testified to lines up with the publicly available police reports that were compiled and available shortly after the incident, which was this was a kid who went looking for a confrontation because I speculate here because so much of what black culture is thug culture. He wanted to be hard. He wanted to be cool. And then but it was wholly illogical in his mind because of this toxic nonsense about how no matter what your station in life, if you have the wrong color of melanin, you are oppressed.
Mm.
This makes absolutely no
So
sense
yeah, yeah,
because
and that
Collin
that's
County, Texas, from the Census Bureau website, is just over 50% white. And it's 19 to 20% Asian, about 11, 12% uh, black, and about 16, 17% Hispanic, and then other. The median household income is over $120,000. The median home price in this county is $475,000. You live in an affluent suburb and you are behaving like some oppressed person in 1950s Mississippi.
hmm
It is utterly illogical, but it is wholly rational if you are fully bought in to the evil of CRT and you let that become your guiding principle. And it's so infuriating the racial grifters on both sides who are using this of immediately, oh, because the defendant is black, I must support him. And he's obviously being done a great injustice here because injustices were done in the past. And now that he has been convicted and sentenced to 35 years in prison, you have some people on the right, I won't say a bunch, but there are some people on the right essentially doing a victory dance. And I can understand being relieved because I can understand the initial impulse of, oh no, here we go again. We're going to see what looks like a pretty cut and dry case on the outside, and we're going to see a gross miscarriage of justice because of the ideology of the time. And so I can understand relief that justice was served here. But hold up a second. Yes, the real victim here is Austin Metcalf, who was killed. He is
yes,
dead. A
yes,
17 year
he's dead.
old
He's the
is
one that paid the
dead
ultimate price. Yeah, but at the
for
same
no
time,
good reason.
you're
But at the
you are
same time,
correct. Yeah.
another 17-year-old kid has had his life ruined.
Hmm.
Yeah, he did it to himself, but he didn't
But
do it
he's also a
alone.
17-year-old kid, full of testosterone, full of, you know, hate because of this ideology.
Uh huh.
Because yeah, but also maybe he had beef too with the guy. There's all of these things, and he did a stupid thing,
Mm-hmm.
which is in sentencing. I hope they take that into account. And I hope in the prison system he gets rehabilitation, not get harder.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the problem with our prison system is sometimes they just get harder.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I actually feel like you're talking about. I feel for the family of the person who was the victim. I feel for the person who did it. And actually, the big controversy out of this too is they did the GoFundMe's and stuff. and the parents
The
spent it on a house and a car
mhm.
and all this stuff, and then they
The
got him a
number I've
public
heard is
defender.
about $600,000 was raised,
Yeah, and they
and
got
it
him a public
doesn't look
defender.
like any of
Yeah,
it went to his actual defense fund.
yeah. It's
It's so gross on so
this
many
kid. This
levels.
kid was so victimized in so many ways.
Mhm.
Again, the worst victim is the one who died, but you're correct. He's second, big time.
Yeah, so can we take a second to have some empathy and also some understanding of how this happened? Because if you don't, then you don't fix it. If you don't if you don't reach out to people like this, to kids like this and say, "Hey, dude, no, that's not reality." Why? Much like Dr. K and the, you know, Andrew Tate, fans is, and he wants people to ask these young men, well, why do you think this? Why is this appealing to you? Why is this the way you want to live your
Well,
life?
we may find out because Harvard professor Roland Fryer, who is the one who came to controversy with his analysis of police shootings and black men.
Mm,
He is a black man himself. He's a professor and but before that, he actually did common sense schools, which was we're going to, and he did it randomized. He took different school districts in Dallas actually, and it was these low income black communities,
mm,
and they basically said, okay, we're gonna hold kids accountable. We're going to make them turn in their homework. We're going to
mm,
make them show up every day and all that. And then the other school, they let it just run the way it was running. And he did the common sense schools, and the results of that were that the kids in the common sense school, the black kids actually scored higher than their white cohorts in other schools.
mm.
And so it was so he kind of became very controversial in that department. But he is currently doing a study on hip hop music and its influence on behavior of ethnic communities. So we may find part of the answer there because look at the 90s hip hop community. Tupac, Biggie, Eazy-E, NWA, all of those.
A lot of those people are dead. A lot of them, like 50 Cent. I don't remember how many times he's been shot, but
But 50 Cent's different. 50 Cent's very intelligent.
and he seems to have escaped that
Yeah, yeah.
trap.
Well, because he fought it. He fought it. And that's why he got shot was because he fought it.
Mhm.
But yeah, 50 Cent's a little different than the others, but he started the same.
Yep.
Uh, yeah, it's the culture that comes out of that is under question, and we're going to get some empirical data on that. And I think that's really cool, but it's taking a long time because it's a hard thing to study. But
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of variables you got to control for there.
yeah,
Well, this, if there is a tiny silver lining in this complete tragedy, I would say it's um explain once again the psychological definition of cognitive dissonance, because I think most of us know the term from Orwell, but when you talk about it as a psychological phenomenon, it's a little different.
when your behaviors contradict your beliefs, there
Hmm.
is a psychological pain in your head. And that's what actual dissonance is. So you're doing something different than what you actually want to do. So a good example that's a positive example is we have cognitive dissonance with spending time with our children when we would rather be doing our own thing. That's a positive one because yeah, we actually report higher enjoyment rate with the kid, but then we also report lower life satisfaction sometimes. And so, yeah, that's a positive one. But on the other end, if you are, say, I don't want to, you're an addict. I don't want to do this substance anymore. But then you do it and you have the bliss of the moment, but then you hate yourself later.
And
Yeah.
from the police reports and the numerous witness testimony during the trial, Anthony was pretty immediately distraught
Hmm.
after he killed Metcalf. He ran away,
And that's why
tried
I
to
think
hide the
he can be re
knife.
rehabilitated.
Yeah,
That's why I would say the punishment process needs to be very nuanced. But
yeah. And so it it is horrific that it took the murder of another human being for him to realize, oh, wait a minute,
mhm,
maybe this isn't what I want. Maybe this isn't what I thought it was going to be. This, I don't feel cool. I don't feel hard. I don't feel, no, I feel horrible. What the
mhm,
hell did I just do? It's go watch the, it has its problems, but the relatively new, it came out a couple of years ago, All Quiet on the Western Front,
mhm.
that came out on Netflix. It was one of the, again, one of the few times they did something good, and I'm pretty sure it was because were just the distributors for this German movie, and that's basically the story of All Quiet on the Western Front. Is this young kid, 17, 18-year old, is inculcated in the glory of serving the fatherland, and then he actually gets to the trenches and goes, "Holy crap, this is awful."
Well, we saw that with the Christmas Day
Mm,
where they had the truce and they all got together, and then after that, the generals and commanding officers had to threaten to kill them to make them kill the other side
mhm. Yep,
because they were like,
yep.
"Hey, we're actually kind of cool."
So
I
speaking of,
I had this with fighting because
okay, yeah, yeah, you've told this before.
yeah, my coach would be like, "He's in your house trying to rape your wife," and I'll be like,
I talked to him before.
I met him at weigh-ins. He was kind of cool. I just kind of
Loser buys the beers. We're gonna hang
loser
out
buys the
after.
beers. Maybe my motivation is I just hate losing.
Exactly. So speaking of cognitive dissonance, this is how it segues into the main topic here, because that's what we're talking about. Because I'm not going to play the clip, because I just want to paraphrase it. But I came across this interesting clip of Alison Armstrong, and I really need to find this interview because I've seen clips from it before, where she's talking to this British woman in this interview, and she has this statement, and I wanted to look at it from the male perspective because she is a woman talking to another woman, talking to women broadly speaking, when she says, never create a conflict between a man's integrity and
Hmm.
his needs. And I think you know where I'm going to go with this, but the interviewer asked, well, what do you mean by that? Give me an example. And what she says is, again, paraphrasing, is, okay, he made a vow, and a man's word is his bond. You are only as good as your word, and men feel that very deeply. Okay. He made a vow of you and only you from here on after.
Hmm.
And you decided unilaterally, I don't feel like having sex anymore. Or you decide that after he gets home from work, he needs to do all the honeydews, and then maybe we'll have sex tonight. You have just created a conflict between his integrity,
Hmm.
the word he gave, the vow he gave, and his needs. And again, even a high libido woman, she really, really wants sex. Men need it.
Hmm.
I cannot say that enough. And if you are a female and you don't believe me, I don't know how to make you understand it,
Yeah,
but it is a
this is a very
need for a
controversial.
man.
This is a
And
very controversial
and
subject,
again,
but
not
yeah,
just sex in general of, oh, we like having, yes, we like having sex, but we need sex with our partner because
it
that is
it
how you demonstrate you actually love us.
it is, and it's also a point of comfort because let me figure out how to say this properly. Like, say we talked about girls' night out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, a girl I have dated, we called it the glob. We put the glob in because you obviously we have evidence that we were there, unless you're wearing a condom. If you're promiscuous, please wear a condom. But the glob is in there. If I have a glob in and she goes on a girls' night out, I'm not worried about guys unless they're just disgusting. because I have evidence that I was there. And that's important for from a guy standpoint because remember, male jealousy is based on partner certainty. It is based on parental certainty, and we can't help it. It's down deep in our
Hmm.
soul. It's mate guarding. And if I can't be there, I need some sort of way to be there. And that's important. But no, but also on the other end, yes, it is. There's always the thought if they pull away, are they getting it somewhere else? So there's both of those things. We
Hmm.
need parental certainty, but also
And
why?
again, women, you do this too. You just do it differently.
Mm-hmm.
If I pull away from spending time with you,
Mm-hmm.
from doing things for
Mm-hmm.
you, well, why? Is it because that energy is going to another woman?
Mm-hmm.
That is where female suspicion starts to come in. So again, we do the same thing, we just do it differently because gas, we're different.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't want to
It's
make
yeah,
this
it's
a
it's the same thing for different reasons, is what it is. It's that cross-sex mind reading is what it
so
is.
I wanted to take this concept and not make it a black pill bash women who, you know, behave badly in this way, but again, from the Jordan Peterson school of thought of, well, let's look at you, young man, and what can you do to make yourself better? Because I feel like we do this to ourselves, because I think that's a good rule of advice to men in general of, hey, you don't create a conflict between your integrity and your needs.
Mm.
Is I feel like I'm kind of thinking out loud here and curious what your thoughts are on this of how are ways that we can do that to ourselves. And again, it's psychologically damaging because you have just created a dissonance of,
Yeah, yeah.
in the example that Allison Armstrong gave, that's not going to be healthy for the man if he does that, because there is going to be this dissonance of, well, I did give my word, I did give my vow, I have been putting in the effort, but on the other hand, she's shut me off. And
Well, that's the hard part because
uh
again, that's why I like the dynamic systems model because it involves social and evolutionary psych and everything. It's there is somebody on the other side. So you can be doing all the right things.
mhm.
You could be doing the romantic thing. You could be doing the all day foreplay that we talked about. You could be doing all the right things. And then she rolls over and goes to sleep.
Mhm.
You can do that. And on the other hand, if you have to actually get in your own head and be like, and this might be where like you could even spreadsheet it or whatever and be like, did I really do what I thought I did? Or was I just being an asshole the whole day? You know. So this is a complicated, very, very complicated subject because you have to make sure you're not the asshole, but at the same time, there's another person on the other end and they have their own feelings. And also, there might be an underlying issue that you don't know about.
Mhm.
And so you got to find a way to communicate that. So those are three big options there. Like
So
maybe they had a tragic event 10 years ago and that was the anniversary of it, right? You have to account for that, but if you don't know, then you don't know. Maybe you're the asshole, or maybe she's just shut out. She's just done. Or maybe she's cheating.
and that applies to you as an individual inside your own head too, of, if you want to keep from creating a conflict between your integrity and your needs, you need to know yourself, and
Hmm.
you need to evaluate yourself and your actions. So
I mean,
kind of
that's
the
Stoicism 101.
yeah,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
one of the kind of the first and really the only example I've been able to think of that, of this idea is, so you have a need to be a provider both to yourself and to a current or future mate and children. but you also have this personal integrity, whatever your personal moral philosophy is, and we can create a conflict with that in our work. And I think guys do that a lot. I think we've done that culturally. And one of the phrases I hate the most is, hey, it's not personal. Well, it's not personal to you. It sure as hell is personal to me if I'm the one being harmed,
Yeah.
right? And I think we have created individually and culturally this dichotomy between, hey, it's just business, hey, it's not personal, and just treating people right, just
Hmm.
treating people how you would want to be treated. It's, a lot of places still require that you read Adam Smith's oh geez, I just brain farted on the name of the book.
I think I have it. Think
Yeah.
again.
So okay, so
Yeah.
his essentially the book on capitalism, right? Okay, I don't know why I can't remember the name of that one, but I can remember the name of the book that most people don't read. There's two parts to that book, or that idea. The first book was about the economics, but
Hmm.
the second book is titled Moral Sentiments. And that's the one everyone really needs to read. Because essentially, in that book, he is saying, okay, but it can't all be about stuff.
Hmm.
We are human beings. As the great philosopher Dennis Miller put it in one of his rants in the 90s, is, you know, hey, bub, you're not the only being schlepping this orb. I mean, I don't even remember the context of it. I just remember I love that line of, you're not the only being schlepping this orb. And I
Hmm.
think that every day in the gym practically, because more and more people are becoming so focused on the idiot box they carry in their pocket that they don't give a damn about anyone else around them.
Yeah. That's that is probably the biggest problem with
And if
the Western world right now
if
is
you go down that route, you are either going to scar yourself enough psychologically that you no longer care, which ain't good, or you're going to create an internal conflict where you kind of feel like crap and maybe you don't know why. And it's, well, because you're treating people like crap in order to get
Mhm.
ahead in your job, because you need a job and you need success in that job. You need to be a provider, but you also need to be a decent human being.
I actually I accidentally had the right book up, Assholeology. And you think by the name of it that it's like how to be an asshole. But no, it's about how to be just the right asshole. Enough to get the job done, but not so much that you're not a decent human being is the whole point of the book.
It's also counterproductive. God, shoot, I can't remember his name. There's this British guy who talks business philosophy, and he's gone around interviewing lots of highly successul people. And
Diary of a CEO?
no, no, no.
No, no.
It's I know that guy. This guy, I can't remember his name. I've just seen him, doing interviews and stuff. And I remember watching a clip of him talking about, I think it may have been in Texas, like the most successful car salesman in the United States, but by volume,
Hmm.
far and away the most successful. And he interviewed him and he asked, how did you get here? Because he started out, just as a guy on the lot selling cars, and then got to the point where he was able to buy his own dealership and then buy multiple dealerships. And he
Is it
instills
Benson?
this, huh?
Benson
I don't remember the
or
name of
McCombs?
the dealer, but it
Yeah,
may have been one
yeah,
of those guys because they're
yeah,
huge.
yeah.
Um, and he said, this was my governing philosophy when I was on the lot just as an entry level salesman. And I have instilled this philosophy in all of my salesmen. Do not do not become so obsessed with the sale that you overlook the customer. Because
Mm,
one, that's just wrong on a human level, but two, it doesn't make any sense on a business level. And he said, well, what do you mean by that? Give me an example. My goal wasn't to make a sale. My goal was to have a satisfied customer. And sometimes that would mean I don't make a sale or I make less of a sale,
hmm.
where I say, look, what you're looking for, what you need, you don't need this car. This car will suit your needs and save you $10,000. Well, $10,000 is a lot of money on a sale when you're working on commission, but that guy came back next time.
Hmm.
And that guy came back for his third car. And that guy came back when his kids needed a car because you treated him right.
Yeah, we don't get any of that anymore.
That is becoming harder and harder to find, and it is why I stick with the people I have stuck with when it comes to, you know, you know, uh, car sales, repairs, house repair stuff that I can't do myself, and I need, when I encounter that, it's okay, you're my guy,
Hmm.
and I don't care if I could probably get it cheaper. It's I would rather have the reliable than the cheap
Hmm.
because I don't know what I'm getting with the cheap. There could be trade-offs there that end up frustrating me.
Hmm.
It's every time I break that rule, I end up frustrated and regretting it. I've had this rule for a while since we bought a house and I started building up the collection of stuff you need for a house. Is if I can't afford to buy a good one, then I'm just gonna go without until I can. You know, I needed a circular saw and I broke that rule and I bought a piece of crap and I took it right back like a couple days later and I said, "Look, I've used this, but this is a piece of crap and I want a good one. Will you let me trade it in?" And they were like, "Yep, sure, no problem. Which one do you want?" I said, "I want the Bosch." And it was more than twice of what the cheap one cost me, but it has lasted 7, 8 years now and is still in great shape. Okay. So same thing with dealing with people of, look, I'd rather deal with the good, decent person that I know actually has quality customer service.
Yeah, but people see the shiny new thing. They see the shiny new thing and they leave the decent person sometimes. And so,
Yeah, and
told you this one's hitting close to home on me. So,
this and you've just made me really. I mean, there's another place guys can do it is you see the shiny new thing of a different woman
hmm.
and you think, "Ooh, she's hot. Ooh, she's interesting. Ooh, she's fun." Well, okay, you're setting yourself up to create a conflict
Hmm.
between your needs and your integrity. That even if, because I've done this and I'm ashamed to say I've done this before in my misspent youth of dumping a girlfriend and not in a good way because there was this other girl that, ooh, I have this opportunity here. And
Hmm.
so it isn't the same integrity violation as, certainly a marriage or even a committed relationship that you've been in for a long time. It's just a high school girlfriend. But yeah, you just treated another human being like crap just
Hmm.
because you saw this shiny new thing and you wanted it.
We saw that with it's not even a shiny new thing all the time. Sometimes it's just the new thing.
Mm.
Is we saw that with Arnold Schwarzenegger when he slept with the maid, right?
Yeah, like what, dude? What are you doing?
Yeah, what are you doing, dude? But yeah, I know trying to think where I'm going to go with this thought, but go ahead and talk for a second more so I can collect my thoughts
Well,
on
I
this.
think the point here is of being a better man is, again, as we mentioned, this whole stoic principle of self-analysis, self-evaluation,
Hmm.
and knowing who you are,
Yeah,
knowing what
and
your
that's I
strengths and your
think that's a
weaknesses
good
are.
definition we need to bring out because uh, everybody thinks of stoicism as just being calm
Mm,
and being collected. No, it's actually knowing yourself. Because Marcus Aurelius was a mighty warrior.
yeah.
He could bring it when he needed it, but he knew himself.
He
And
was one of the longest reigning emperors, and I'm
Mhm.
pretty sure I'm pretty sure Rome was at its geographical height at the end of Marcus Aurelius's rule.
Hmm.
They,
Yeah,
I may be
it's not
wrong. They
it's,
may have
yeah.
expanded slightly more after that, but that was basically the height of the Roman Empire.
Yeah, and I'll put it this way. Stoicism isn't about not being angry. Stoicism is about knowing when anger is appropriate.
Yes.
And so he would be angry when he needed to be. He would be calm when he needed to be. He would be sad when he needed to be. And he would always take that little step back and say, is this appropriate at the moment?
And that brings us back to the depressing example of the, you know, the stabbing case here is, and this is a
He
point
needed
I've
to
seen
take a
some
step
people making
back. Yeah, he
exactly
needed,
is,
yeah.
okay, look, you people who are rabidly defending this guy just because of the melanin on his skin, it falls apart under basic common sense as well as the law. The law says a self defense needs to be reasonable. Whatever you think happened in that tent, under, it's an open pavilion. He could have just left. Whatever bullying was being done by the other members of, these other high schoolers, did that warrant killing a guy? Did that warrant lethal force? No. Take a step back.
Or at
You
least get
know,
in a fist fight.
yeah.
Just duke it out like men.
It, from the testimony, even the defense's own star witness that was trying to say, you know, Metcalf started it, that, they were bullying him, they threatened him. But even he admitted under prosecution cross examination that Anthony provoked this, and he had his hand in his backpack where he was hiding the knife he wasn't supposed to have at a school track meet the whole time. Even before, this one witness claimed that Metcalf said, "I'm going to beat your ass if you don't leave," is what the witness testified to. But even before that, he had his hand in the bag. It
Well, it's this is again, CRT is part of it, but it is just this new era of we used to back in the day. I have crowns in my mouth from you, we would just go at it if you had a disagreement. And sometimes, and as men, sometimes you would be friends and shake hands after. One of the best moves I ever made was getting in a fight with a senior when I was a sophomore because he beat my ass, but at the same time, I put up a good fight, and everybody was like, "Oh, cool, yeah, that's great." But yeah, you just duke it out. What's wrong with that? Oh, you know what? Part of it might be this whole society we have now of kids. Everybody gets in trouble for the fight.
mm-hmm.
If you even get in a fight as a kid, you're suspended from school, or your parents are involved, or now it's all play dates instead of just kids hanging out together. Us kids just hanging out together in the middle of the woods, we'd fight all the time.
I've
We,
seen numerous stories of people, parents finally pushing back on this of, no, you're not going to punish my kid. My kid was the victim here. My kid was being bullied. Well, yeah, but they hit this kid. Yeah, because they were being bullied. How about you punish yourself because you're the adults and you should have been there to stop this, or you should have instructed these kids better. They're under your care. What are you teaching them that makes them think this is acceptable behavior?
well, I always told my son, I'm like, if you come home with the detention or the note or whatever for being in a fight, I'm going to ask you straight up, and I want you to be honest with me. Did you start the fight? Were you being the bully? And if you weren't, if someone else attacked you or you were defending somebody else, you won't be in trouble here. That's what I told him. So you might have got in trouble at school, but you will be in trouble here if you were being the bully. But you will not be in trouble here if you were defending yourself or you were defending somebody else. And he's always been good about that kind of stuff. I mean, he doesn't get in fights much, but although the water polo team has a hazing ritual where the freshman has to fight the senior, he got his ass kicked. He texted me that day. He said, "You got any good advice for boxing?" And I was like, "Why?" And he goes, "Because I got to box a senior tonight." And I'm like, "It's a little late for that, dude. We need to do some training first." Now the thing that now well I will be disappointed in him if he's the senior and he loses to the freshman. I would be disappointed in him
Yeah,
in
that
that,
kid
but
better be a Gold Gloves champion
yeah.
too. Yeah. Um, this is. I mean, I said we were again. I don't want to get too black pill woman bashing here, but this also ties into Helen Andrews and the Great Feminization Theory, because so much of this attitude is a female attitude. It
It's
is a no, no,
overprotective. Yeah, yeah,
we
yeah.
just need peace. The fighting is what is bad. We all need to get along. And no, the male perspective is, or should be, sometimes you've got to clench your fists.
Hmm.
And sometimes it's not enough to clench the fist, you've got to throw those fists.
And
But you need to
sometimes,
know when it is appropriate.
and as you said earlier, sometimes you need to walk away.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you walk away backwards because you don't trust the person that you're
Yeah.
walking away from.
But you know what?
That happens in the
It's
bars all the
you.
time.
You had a funny story of, I don't remember, was this when you were working at Walmart or what? You were out late at oh, what was that? What was that kind of gross diner that we love?
Shortcake?
Shortcakes.
Yeah.
Yeah. This old school diner where they were just, slinging stuff onto the flat top, and it
That
was
was
greasy
actually
and
number
delicious.
5 cleanest place.
Yeah.
They did their sanitation and stuff, even though
It
it
was
was a
just
little,
old, so it
yeah, yeah.
looked dingy. But that was just because it was an old place. It had been there
Number
forever.
50
But
was the most popular place there.
you were
Mm.
there, and you were with a guy who did private security and bouncing,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and someone wanted to pick a fight with him. I was, oh yeah, I can take you. And he's like, all right, I'll meet you out in the parking lot. Just let me finish my tea. And the guy goes out in the parking lot. All right, call the cops.
Yeah.
No,
Well,
I'm not
but
gonna
I
fight
mean,
you.
I've bounced before you, and you know when a fight's worth it or not.
Yeah.
Uh, and in 99% of the time, it's not worth it
Mm-hmm.
because in the real world, not in sport. I mean, I did fight in sport, but in the real world, typically nobody wins.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you won, you didn't win.
Mm-hmm.
You lost a tooth, or you tore a ligament, or you're just bruised all over from it because real fist fights, when somebody's emotional like that, you feel no pain for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And unless you get a knockout on the first hit, nobody wins. I mean, I tell the story all the time of my boy JC. He's a professional pitcher, and there was this little. It's always a dude that looks like Eminem for some reason, with a wife beater shirt on, trying to make trouble, and he kept provoking him. And they do that because, I mean, these athletes, of course, they get the attention of all the girls. And so the guys that don't get the attention of all the girls get all upset. And he was about to go. He was ready to go. And I always told him, I said, he asked me what to do in a fight. And I said, throw your fastball into their face. You got a 100-mile-an-hour fastball. Throw it into their face. And he was about to do it. And I said, no, don't do it because you're going to go to jail. So I picked him up, 240-pound guy. I picked him up and took him outside. And the cop shook my hand afterwards because he was like, you prevented probably something where we had to arrest everybody. And, and that young guy probably would have ended up with facial reconstructive surgery if that fist hit him in the face. And yeah, it's not worth the juice is not worth the squeeze
Uh-huh.
unless they're harming your family or attacking your family or attacking you directly. The juice is not worth the squeeze, man. Don't fight over just stupid crap.
I mean, that is a conflict between your integrity and your needs. Is, look, you need to stand up for yourself. You need to try and control the situation. We as men need to kind of impose order around
Mhm.
us. We like orderly things. That's why we like check boxes, and and we like accomplishing things, we like building things. But you also have the integrity of a man, of a human being, of a, okay, did I fly off the handle? Did I get too emotional? Did I harm someone beyond what was necessary? So don't set yourself up for that.
Yeah,
And
that
I mean,
that's
I don't know what advice to give for this beyond go read Marcus Aurelius. You know,
I should have put him up behind me.
that's that
I got his
that's
meditations.
probably a good start. And
Meditations is up there.
it
That used
is.
to be my bank account. That's where I put my cash in was meditations, but I changed it because someone figured it out. But
So I would also say that, there's a lot of crap about modernity, but one of the good things is that you can get free ebooks from people who will digitize them and then put them up for free of things that are in the public domain, because
Hmm.
meditations is so old, it is in the public domain.
Hmm.
So if you buy a from Penguin or whoever who will publish those kinds of things,
I think it
you're
is
not
Penguin.
buying
Yeah.
you're not buying the work, you're buying the physical book. That's what
Hmm.
you're paying for, because they don't have a copyright for meditations. They just, someone did the translation, they did the printing and binding, and here you go. That's what you're paying for. But you can just go into, whatever, make this idiot box useful for once. Go to the, your library in there, and I've, on iTunes or Apple Books or whatever the heck they call it now, I've got it downloaded, because there was I don't remember who, I think some university had done a bunch of these classics that they had posted as ebooks for no charge. So go find some of these things, read them, think about them, and try your best to apply them to your life.
Well, and also we're talking about men here. So if you're a young man, read some of these because it just makes you more interesting.
Okay.
And if you're more interesting, you're going to do better in the dating market. Because if just a little more knowledge makes you a more interesting person. What is the line from the song I'm thinking of? 100 bad days makes 100 great stories, which makes you interesting at parties. I mean, but 100 good books also can make you interesting at
Yeah.
parties. So, uh, I mean, and you'll also find your people because if someone's not, if you're interesting because of your knowledge and someone is turned off by it, then they're probably not interesting themselves. And if they're not interesting themselves, you're going to eventually get bored and want to leave. So if you, yeah, lean into it, man, lean into it.
Yeah. Well, if you have any, you people out there have any examples of your own of when you've done that to yourself and then look back and go, oh man, why did I do that? Or seen from the people around you of, dude, why did you do that? Then let us know, because I am in, again, this is more of a thought exercise than anything I have well thought out, but I thought the idea of a conflict between needs and integrity was profound enough that it provokes thought, and it takes a while to work through that thought.
Yeah, and you can go extreme on that, and you can go mild on that, and the extreme is obviously you brought up sex. You need sex, but you're not gonna force sex on somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So that the need versus the integrity. But at the same time, well, we need sex as men. So how much do we kind of like play the field, that kind of thing. So it can be extreme or it could be not extreme. And I think her point was don't force him
Mm-hmm.
to try to manipulate you, which is one route if he wants to stay with you, or go somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
That I think that was her point, if I got you correctly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But at the same time, as men, obviously, we are the bigger, stronger part of the species in most cases, except for the Briennes of the world. But it's you gotta finesse this stuff. You can't just force
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
Well, we're going to go down that rabbit hole more next time, because want to bring the chicks, man, back into it, and using sex as an example, like the physical act itself. If you think about how different it is for men versus women, I think that explains a lot of why we approach it and think about it so differently. And
Y-
it is interesting to contemplate these, these trade-offs of of you know of who's better, or who has it better, who has it easier. Well, it's just different,
mhm.
and I kind of want to explore that more next time, because what, we have been talking about here is integrity versus needs of what do you need to be fulfilled as a male or as a female when it comes to relationships? And then how do you do that without violating your integrity?
Yeah. Well, and I'm going to tease a little bit for that conversation with porn real quick. Porn and masturbation for a male. So everybody says, "Oh, well, if it's about getting off, just go pop one out, right?" That's good for one time. And then, okay, so say you have a partner. I'm saying you have a partner and you're not a single dude. Uh, then the second time you start thinking, why am I having to do this?
Mm,
And then the third time you start to get angry, but you still want to get that release, but you get angry with having to do the release yourself. And then every subsequent time you get more and more angry about that and or at least frustrated or self-loathing. All of those negative thoughts start coming through.
yeah.
So if you're with a partner and you have to do that over and over and over again because you're not getting the intimacy with that partner, you start to resent the act itself, but you still do it because your body needs the release.
Mm.
And so that I might tease with that.
Oh,
And
there's some dissonance right there. That's definitely going to create some
yeah,
dissonance.
that is
Yeah.
definitely dissonance because you're like you're seeing something you like because you probably know what you're looking for on the internet and you're feeling the things that I mean, it feels kind of the same physically, but you're not with the person you want who is right there probably. Not right in the room with you, obviously, but who is right there and available, but is not available because they're not being available.
Mhm.
And that is the part that hurts. And it makes it more painful than just being a single guy that does it all the time.
Yeah. Well, we will go down that rabbit hole and hopefully keep from making it X-rated. Uh,
You know what? Some
although
of our
although
best
YouTube only
episodes
seems to
have been,
care if we quote the CDC and then we're banned.
yeah,
Or see.
yeah.
All
Okay,
right. Well,
so do we have a positive note to end on? Uh,
you know what? I think it is positive that, as we've talked about before, even if they don't know what to do or exactly what they're looking for, I do see a lot of boys and young men at least looking for this stuff of, okay, well, even if they're not saying phrasing it in these terms of, well, what does it mean to be a man and to be a good man? And what do I need and how do I fulfill those needs in the best way possible? At least people are looking. And yeah, there's a lot of crap out there, especially now with AI slop, but
hmm
there's still, the idiot box doesn't have to be an idiot box.
hmm
You can educate yourself. Okay, I'm a mini rant here because it's summertime, and summertime means that the gym I go to gets flooded with teenagers. And usually I work out in the middle of the afternoon to avoid the crowd.
Do they have the broccoli hair?
Yeah, there's some of that. But I get really annoyed when I see the teenagers working out. And it's not because I'm a grumpy old man. There's, oh, you kids get off my lawn. Almost everything I see in there drives me crazy to one degree or another because it's just not good. I'm like, I want to fix you, man. But if you're an old geezer like me, you are old enough to know better or learn better. You have a fully developed brain, you have life experience. Even if you don't know, you can figure out how. So that's one of the reasons it's annoying when I see older people, when I see adults doing things wrong or just outright bad in the gym, is because, dude, you're old enough to know better or to figure it out. But I'm not going to intervene because you're also old enough to deal with the consequences of your actions. I get so annoyed when I see teens doing things wrong because the last several years I was working as a trainer, a lot of my clients were teenagers because I'd volunteered to help with the swim team and help with their strength and conditioning program. So I ended up coaching a lot of teenagers, and it drives me crazy when I see them doing wrong because you're still a kid. And what I want to know is, where the heck are the adults in your life who didn't teach you properly? Because even if they don't know themselves, like my dad didn't know anything about lifting weights. He grew up in a dirt farm in rural Oklahoma. And then, he learned a little bit because one of his roommates was on scholarship on the football team. So he learned a little bit from him, and some guys in the army knew. And so he learned a little, but he didn't really know how to lift. But we had a friend from church who did and said, "Oh, no problem. I'll take him to the gym with me. I'll teach him." And dad said, "Great, son, go with him and listen to him, obey, be polite, all the things, and learn what he has to teach you." And that's where I started to learn. That's where I got my foundation when it came to not just what to do, but how to do it properly.
Well,
So that drives me crazy when I see kids doing it wrong.
I've even had a step above that where strength coaches would bring their kids to me because they're like, he's a teenager, he doesn't listen to me, so he's yours.
I mean, I
And
brought
yeah,
my son down there just for
yeah,
that reason. He doesn't
yeah,
want to
yeah,
listen to Coach Dad anymore.
yeah. But I just got some fantastic news. I might the house might be going through,
Woohoo!
and quick because apparently it's going into foreclosure with the previous owners. So
Oh dear. All right, well,
yeah, yeah. So yeah.
so we do
Uh,
have a happy notice.
we
Sam has a house theoretically, maybe.
theoretically maybe, and
Yeah.
we'll probably not have a party because we're too old for that. But
Yeah.
yeah.
We're
But
gonna be too tired after
you'll have
moving
a
the
guest room
stuff.
to stay in when you come down to fish.
All right. Well, there's some positivity we can end on, and hopefully we have given some interesting thoughts for you to explore, and then go out and study, learn from other people and what they have to say,
Yeah, yeah.
to
It's
expand your mind.
There are so many good people on this, like James Sexton, we've talked about before.
Mhm,
Uh, Robert, excuse me, Jordan,
mhm.
not Robert Jordan, Jordan
Jordan
Peterson.
Peterson.
Jordan Peterson, read his stuff. I know he gets a bad flack online, but God, even look at his reels on Instagram. They're fantastic. Uh, what was the Matthias twins? The one,
Yeah, shoot.
yeah, yeah. They have some great little reels that give a life lesson in like 30 seconds, and it's great. So yeah, there's some positive stuff to end with, and I guess we'll see you next time. Like, subscribe, all that stuff.
All right. Thank you all.